In the 1970s, Marlon Brando finally had his comeback to Hollywood after a declining career. His comeback was so strong that he was invited to the Oscars, but he decided he would stand up for what he believed in and change Hollywood forever. Marlon Brando transformed the Oscars from an award show to a platform where voices who challenge and question societal norms can be heard by millions of people from around the world. If you don't know who Marlon Brando was, he was an actor with a career that spanned over 60 years. He was first noticed in Hollywood in 1951. He was noticed more and more throughout the 50s and rose to the top of the acting world. During the 60s, his career started spiraling downwards, and he stopped getting the attention that he used to get. He underachieved for 10 years until finally he was in The Godfather. While being a successful actor, he was also a supporter of civil rights movements and joined along freedom rides. Perhaps what he's most famous for is turning down the most prestigious award in Hollywood, Best Actor, and he did it to stand up for Indigenous rights. A partner in his actions at the Oscars was Sacheen Littlefeather. She was an Apache actress and activist. She got in contact with Brando because he was an activist and worked with the American Indian movement since the 60s. They had first met in Washington, D.C. when Littlefeather was presenting to the Federal Communications Commission about the minorities. They later got in contact with each other when Brando was the favorite to win the award. Brando decided that he would not go to the Oscars and that she would take his place. Brando had written out a 4-page speech about why he was declining the award, but there was not enough time, so Littlefeather had to improvise and come up with her own speech in the meantime. The reason for this boycott to happen was the Wounded Knee incident. It happened around the same time as the Oscars in 1973, between February 27th and May 8th in Wounded Knee, South Dakota. Approximately 200 Oglala, Lakota, and more followers of the American Indian movement took over the area on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. The protests followed the failure of an effort to impeach tribal President Richard Wilson. The United States government was criticized for their lack of ability to fulfill treaties with Native American people and demanded the reopening of treaty negotiations. The area was cordoned off by several law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and the United States Marshal Service. Wounded Knee was chosen because it had significance from a previous massacre that happened there. It got national attention as supporters traveled far distances, and there was widespread public sympathy for the supporters. That event is what spurred Brando and Littlefeather to work together and come up with a plan to boycott the Oscars. This speech was heard across the country. There were mixed opinions, as you can hear that the audience is divided between cheering and booing. This speech threw Hollywood's racism in their own face. It forced Hollywood to rethink how they would cast Indigenous peoples. The impact did not stop there. It has affected the Oscars all the way to now, as because of Marlon Brando, more and more stars are willing to stand up for what they believe in on one of the biggest stages in the world. The Oscars is not just an award show anymore. It is a platform for people to challenge society and get their message out to millions of people in an effective way. Several stars have done this, and now it is sometimes more effective just to not show up, like Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Marlon Brando changed the Oscars and Hollywood forever, and this will force Hollywood to change for the better every time there's a problem that should be fixed, as there will always be somebody's voice that will be heard on that stage.